Hey everybody, so for this week's retro game review, we are not spinning the wheel. I'm just going to tell you about the game that I have been playing, which I have been enjoying so very much. So very much. This is a game right out of my childhood that I did not play during my childhood because I had no patience for RPGs as a child. Like none. Zip. No RPG patience in this one. But now I love them. Now I'm all about like the grindier the better. And coincidentally, the footage that you are going to be seeing is me grinding. Like I just found out because I have been using walkthroughs because they are indispensable at this point if you don't want to wander around forever and go to the wrong places and not know what you're supposed to do next because you didn't talk to that one guy in the pub who's like, and the next thing you should do is, that. Yeah, so it's what Nintendo Power was for back in the day, and it is what I am using to be able to get through this game in an efficient, like reasonable, decent manner, like without wasting too much time, but also like enjoying it as much as I possibly can, doing as many of even the optional things as I possibly can. But here's the fun thing is that because I'll go for a little bit without looking at the guide, find my way, because sometimes it's pretty obvious where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do, and then I pull out the guide when I need it. Anyway, regardless, the reason I'm grinding right now is because I just found out because I am into, like, there are multiple worlds within the Final Fantasy V thing. You find out one of your party members is actually from a different world, which makes a lot of sense with some of the twists that the game has already taken up to this point, that you're like, wait, but I thought, hold on. And then he's like, oh, I'm the one from the other world. And I just had amnesia, which is like a little bit soap opera-esque, but it totally works. It totally works. Like, the storyline of this game is really good, even though it is the standard Final Fantasy fare. There's crystals, someone been messing with the crystals, and now you got to restore the order and balance to the world through the power of the crystals, which I love how that is how the job system is unlocked. And by the way, the job system in this game, if you've never played a Final Fantasy game, just understand this. They're different. It's like classes in D&D, knight, berserker, different types of mage, like different types of things that your character can be. And you level up with ability points, and the longer that you stay as that job, the better you'll get at it. And so it becomes important to really decide, like, ooh, I just unlocked some new jobs. Like for me, I unlocked Samurai not too long ago. But as you'll see, I have two characters who are ninjas, because Bart's the main character of the thing. I've kept him as fighting types because you always need someone who can deal just a lot of melee damage every time they come up in the order. That's just handy to have. And Galoof, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. That's how I've been pronouncing it in my head, because it's not voice acted. This is going back to 1992, from the SNES era. And by the way, like, I know I'm rambling and whatnot, and I'll get back to what I was saying in just a second, but like, this is the classic era of RPGs. If you have ever messed around with RPG Maker, what they are trying to do in RPG Maker is make it so that you can make your own RPG of this specific era, like this exactly. And you'll see all of the stock things that you can do with RPG Maker. Like all of them are they're built around helping you to build something that looks and feels as much like this as possible. But all those RPG Maker games fall short. Because there's a certain undefinable quality that comes with a game like this. I couldn't even tell you what it is. I literally could not. It just, there's an undefinable quality in terms of the gameplay, in terms of the story, in terms of how engaging it is, in terms of how memorable it is, how much you connect with the characters. It's just, it all comes together. It's the various parts that make up the whole. Each one of those things is maximized and optimized by somebody who really, really knew what they were doing. So yeah, that's how, rather than, your RPG Maker games, which are typically made by one person who has played these games and is trying to, recreate that feeling. Yeah, this is the classic era of RPGs. And it is easy to see why so many people are so nostalgic and why we are seeing a resurgence, especially on the Switch, of these types of RPGs, of RPGs that have this look and this feel. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look at the fantastic games made by Z-Boyd Games. Every game that they have made is just fantastic because it understands what makes these games great on a level that is higher and deeper than most other games. Anyway, so that needs to be said. This is classic RPGing at its finest. And although the footage that you are seeing is of me just grinding it out because using my walkthroughs, like, I found out that I was significantly below the recommended level, and I like to stay one level above what you need to be. So they said you need to be level 27 to be able to beat the boss that I just beat before. Like, wouldn't it have been nice if I had captured all that boss footage? Yeah, it would have been nice. Would have been super cool of me to do that, but I didn't think of that at the time. I was having too much fun playing the game. And indeed, even in the grinding, I'm having a good time. Like, I enjoy grinding if the RPG is good. And this is good, absolutely. And it's a good grind spot, too. Because you get some reasonably challenging monsters who give you reasonable chunks of XP. And you're right outside of a town, and the inn only costs 40 gold pieces. You get more than that in one battle, easy. So you can grind for gold, you can grind for XP. You'll see a little bit later on in the footage, I do like go into some shops and buy some spells and things, and I go talk to some of the townspeople and whatnot. Like, I don't just grind the whole time, but the front half, it is super grindy. So my apologies if you don't find that interesting or entertaining in any way, shape, or form. Anyway, regardless, back to the job system, what I was talking about, how fantastic it is and how well balanced it is. Because, well, I don't know about balanced. Some of these jobs are legitimately broken in terms of how awesome they are. And ninja and summoner are like broken. Summoner, as long as you know where to get the really good moves and then know which moves to use on which enemies, like knowing the enemy's weaknesses. If you can do that, summoner is like, you can just wipe things out in a single turn, which you will see me do with the Titan move. Yeah, that's summon that Titan of the Gaia's Wrath. And yeah, it is trouble for the enemy. Like, they will not last another round after that gets pulled on them. Anyway, not those little pink salamander guys. Anyway, I know they have a name. I don't have it in front of me right now. It's like Bariscos or something. I know that I should be more knowledgeable of my Final Fantasy enemies, but I apologize that I am not. Anyway, regardless. So yeah, the job systems, like, I'll just run through the jobs that you unlock. So you start off as freelancer. Like, this is still relatively new by this point, because jobs were introduced in Final Fantasy 3. In 1 and 2, like, if you chose a character, like, you could choose what your character would be, but if you choose for them to be a black mage, they're going to be a black mage for the rest of the game, you know? And so it was in Final Fantasy 3, which was an excellent entry. I need to review that one at some point, but Final Fantasy 3, super excellent. Definitely worth it. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. But I love the way that it introduced jobs, and a lot of those jobs are back, you know? So the Wind Crystal jobs are Knight, Monk, Thief, Black Mage, White Mage, and Blue Mage. And for a while, like, you know, you really want a Knight, you really want a White Mage. Blue Mage is, like, pretty awesome to have. Black Mage, of course. Thief and Monk, like, I just wasn't as much about them. Red Mage, that's the next in the Water Crystal jobs. You can see I'm still rocking a Red Mage, because the ability to cast both those black and white spells, indispensable, gotta have it. Time Mage, Galoof is trained in Time Mage, but, like, he rarely uses it. Because I also have him trained up in White Mage skills. And so to have a ninja with White Mage skills is, like, awesome. Because on the rounds when you need him to be dealing damage, he can deal some heavy damage. And on turns when you need him to heal the entire party, he can heal the entire party. So that's just handy. And it's kind of broken to have a guy who can do both of those things. So yeah, he's an indispensable part of my party. Summoner, I have Ferris trained as a summoner, which, like, makes no sense. Lena's my Red Mage. Yeah, Ferris is my summoner. There's no rhyme or reason to why I picked her. I just I needed somebody to do it. And it doesn't really fit her character at all. But yeah, I let her do it. Anyway, there's also Berserker, which, like, I trained up my ninja in so that he can, like, when I really need someone to, like, jump the gun, because you get a lot of preemptive strikes with Berserker, and you can just, like, start dealing damage as soon as an encounter starts. So, like, when I find myself in dungeons and things with lots of enemies, you know, lots of encounters, I can just assign that Berserker skill or that Berserker ability, because you unlock abilities based on the jobs that you give your characters. And the more they do that job, the more abilities they'll unlock. And then those abilities are there even if you choose anything else. There's a lot of people who will just unlock abilities and then they'll keep their character as a freelancer, because freelancers can use any weapon and they can wear any armor, and people argue that it is the most broken job class in the game. The only problem with it is that when you're a freelancer, any ability points that you get are kind of wasted because you're not using an ability point to level up in a specific job. But like once you've reached a certain point in the game, a lot of people are like, yeah, just go freelancer. It makes all the sense in the world. The ones that I haven't messed with at all, except for Ninja, are there's Beastmaster, Geomancer, Ranger, and Bard. And I played around with Bard a little bit, and then I realized like you really need to level up your Bard to be able to mess around with it. Ranger, you don't even have weapons for it right off the bat, like right after you get it as a job. And so it just kind of fell by the wayside. I should have trained someone as a Ranger. I didn't. And then the final round of jobs, which I just unlocked, are Dragoon, which like Dragoon is one of the first jobs that you get in Final Fantasy IV. You know, one of the main characters starts out as a Dragoon, like your best friend is a Dragoon. Anyway, so yeah, it's fun how the different Final Fantasy games approach these same jobs, but these same jobs are kind of at the core of everything Final Fantasy. Yeah, Dragoon, Dancer, that's another one. Is kind of like Bard, where you have to level it up super high, otherwise it's kind of worthless. Samurai, which people are like, yeah, that one's broken. Once you like have leveled it up enough, your evade ability is just insane. And then there's Chemist, which like, you know, Chemist, you can make potions and whatnots, which becomes very handy. And so like all of the jobs are really good. And there are additional jobs if you're playing it on, you know, the mobile game versions of it and whatnot, but I'm playing the original SNES version of it, so those are the jobs that you get. There's also the battle system, the ATB, the active time battle, which is like a staple in so many Final Fantasy games. I think that was also brought in. Oh no, that one came in Final Fantasy IV. So jobs in Final Fantasy III, ATB in Final Fantasy IV, and it just, you know, you'll see those meters powering up, and when the meter powers up, it's that character's turn to go. And it's kind of like you know, rolling for initiative in D&D. Like when your turn comes up, you go. And that's, you know, it makes it really interesting, and there's plenty of strategy on like who do you put front row and who do you put back row, and you know, how do you arrange your characters top to bottom. You know, for a long time Galoof was back row. Now I only have one person on back row, and that's Ferris, because she can't deal much in the way of melee damage, and she doesn't have much in the way of armor because she's a summoner. But like she can deal crazy amounts of damage. Anyway, so that's how I've got my guys set up, and I'm just ripping through and having a good time. Like I said, I beat a boss that I should have been more leveled up for, and then I realized like, oh, I'm like three levels behind what is recommended for this boss, and that means I was 4 behind what I like to be, which is 1 ahead of whatever the recommended level is. So, you know, it means I'm doing well. But yeah, like I said, the footage be grindy, and that's, you know, how we do it. Anyway, but this game is super fun, and one of the reasons why I wanted to review it is because I just wanted to mark down and remember what it was like to play Final Fantasy V for the first time. Because, like, okay, Final Fantasy I establishes the series. Final Fantasy II is an exploration in how to not build a leveling system. Like, that game, it's got a decent story, it's got decent characters, it's got a lot of decent things, but the leveling system is so broken. Like, I tried to play it straight the first time I played it. I didn't do the whole attack your own characters thing. which is in fact the best and easiest way to level up. And in fact, the correct way to level up if you're playing Final Fantasy II is to just go out against super easy monsters and just attack your own characters and, you know, time it out so that you don't die, and then you easily, quickly take out whatever, enemy that you have encountered, and then you level up based on the damage that you have taken. It's a terrible leveling system. But yeah, Final Fantasy III got us the job system, Final Fantasy IV got us the active time battle, and Final Fantasy V like really starts firing on all cylinders. And this begins the beginning of the Final Fantasy games that when you ask people what their favorite one is, it's probably going to be 5 or later. A lot of people are going to say 6, and I can't wait to play 6. I'm not going to lie. I'm very excited about 6. And yes, I know that these were released under different numbers in the United States, because, yeah, this was Final Fantasy II for us here in the United States, because, yeah, we missed a few. And then our Final Fantasy III on the SNES is actually Final Fantasy VI, because that's how many we missed in the interim, because it was believed, and correctly so at the time, that not enough Americans played turn-based RPGs. I mean, now that would be an insane thing to argue, but at the time, it was legitimately true. Like, everybody in Japan was playing these games, and everyone in America is like, what now? Say what? You do what? How do you? The game is what? And now it's just normal. It's standard. It is what it is. Anyway, so yeah, I am deep enough into the story of this game. I don't know how it ends yet. I assume that I'm going to beat the bad guy, and that the crystals are going to heal the earth and everything is going to be good by the end, because that's kind of a staple plot for a Final Fantasy game. But there's a lot of little twists and turns in the interim. I mean, you gotta know that that's a thing. I mean, Final Fantasy III was pretty boilerplate in a lot of ways, but then there's a twist that takes place near the end of the game where a couple of the characters make a massive sacrifice on your behalf, and it is an emotional moment in an NES game, which is just really impressive. And there are multiples of those so far in Final Fantasy V, like little twists in the tale and emotional moments where you're like, oh my god, look at this guy with a belly full of regret for what he has done, and this is giving me the feels in a game that is 16-bit pixel based. Come on, that's why this is the golden age of RPGs. Anyway, let me put a final score on this, and then we'll be done, because I can wax rhapsodic about this. I have another 10 minutes worth of footage and another 30 minutes worth of things I could say about this game, but let's not, and let's just put a final score on it and call it good. Okay, so for Final Fantasy V, a game which I love despite not having finished it yet, I'm going to say that it receives a 9 out of a possible 10 broken Galoof ninjas. Here's why I go 9 out of 10 instead of 10 out of 10, even though I just love this game, is because I'm reserving the possibility that Final Fantasy VI is even better. And then the monolithic Final Fantasy VII comes after that, which I also have not played. Yeah, I know. I got to get on it. I watched people play it back in the day, but I couldn't afford a copy. It was an expensive game back then. It's even more so now, if you're buying an original copy. Anyway, so yeah, totally. We're going to make our way into some of the most iconic of all the Final Fantasy games as I'm playing my way through them. And so the only reason I didn't go 10 out of 10 is because I think that it gets better from here. And I am fully prepared for that and excited about it. So anyway, that will do it for this one, people. Thank you for sticking around. Sorry this is so long, but thanks for being here. I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.